All right, welcome to lesson 5 on the principle of inclusion and exclusion. This is our last lesson in outcome 30.03. This lesson, we're going to look at word problems involving 3 sets where there's overlap. And we do have a formula that we're going to be referring to. It's kind of ugly. The principle of inclusion or exclusion we have actually looked at without formally stating it for 2 sets, is that the number of elements in A or B is equal to the number in A plus the number in B minus the overlap. So essentially that means if I have 2 sets, the total number that is in both of the sets is the number that's in A plus the number that's in B, but then to subtract the overlap because you would have counted that the first time. Okay, for more complex sets, the formula that we have is the number in A or B. Oh, I've got a little typo there. It should say or C. A or B or C is the number in A plus the number in B plus the number in C. Subtract the AB overlap, subtract the AC overlap, subtract the BC overlap, but then you have to add back in the part that's in all 3 because you would have taken it away each time. So let's just get right to work looking at this problem. So I have some steps for you over here on the side if you are a step follower. So you're going to define your sets, determine the variable, sketch a Venn diagram, use your formula, solve for your unknown information. Okay, so let's just get right to it here. So if I have 28 children that have a dog, a cat, or a bird, so I'm going to would make sense for these to be D, C, and B. And what this basically tells me is that the number of elements that are in dog or cat or bird is 28. Okay, 13 children have a dog, so the number of elements that are in the dog set is 13. The number that are in the cat set is 13, and the number that have birds is 13. 4 only have a dog and a cat. So what this actually is the number that have a dog and a cat, but not a bird. So that's the complement of the bird. That's equal to 4. The number that have a dog and a bird, but not a cat, is 3. The number that have a cat and a bird, but not a dog, is 2. And it tells us that no child has 2 of each type of pet. Okay, so we're going to start off by drawing a Venn diagram here. So I'm just going to get my rectangle set up. And in that rectangle, I will have my sets. Okay, so I'm going to have 3 sets. So I will have my dogs, my cats, and my birds. Okay, so dog, cat, bird. And I can start putting the numbers that I know in there. So I know I can't put in the big numbers yet because that's going to be, so remember we always start small. I don't know how many are having all of them, so I'm going to actually call that X. I'm defining my variable there. This is, I want to know how many have a dog and a cat and a bird. That's going to be my unknown quantity. But I do know that 4 have only a dog and a cat, so that's a 4. 3 have a dog and a bird, and 2 have a cat and a bird. Okay, so now I'm actually going to use my formula from up above, which states that the number of elements in dog or cat or bird is the number of dog plus the number of cat plus the number of bird minus the number of dog and cat minus the number of dog and bird minus the number of bird and cat plus the number that are in all 3. Okay, so substituting the numbers, I know from my question that there's 28 people in all of those. The number that have a dog is 13, the cat is 13, the bird is 13. The number now, so this is where it gets a little bit confusing, the number that elements that are in the dog and the cat. So we have to keep in mind that that would be this whole thing here. So it would be not just 4, but it would be x plus 4, right? So I'm going to go subtract x plus 4. The dog and bird, that's this part right here. So that's going to be x plus 3. Make sure you have your brackets around there because it's going to change your signs. And then the bird and cat will be this part here. So that's going to be x plus 2. And the part that is in all of them, that's that middle part. So that is just simply x. So when I do the math on this, so really what this ends up being is 13 plus 13 plus 13, take away 4, take away 3, and take away 2. Okay, so when I simplify this, the numerical portion becomes 30. If you want to write out the whole thing, you can, but I'm kind of just taking some shortcuts here. So it'll be minus x, minus x, minus x. So that's minus 3x plus x is minus 2x. And then when I solve this, I would move the 30 across the equal sign, right? Subtract 30 from both sides. So I get 28 subtract 30 is negative 2 equals negative 2x. Divide negative 2, x equals 1. Okay, so what that means is in that very middle portion of my Venn diagram, that's where the 1 goes, right? So to answer the question A, how many children have a cat and a dog and a bird? Well, that is 1. And B says how many children have only one pet. Okay, so to figure that out, we need to go back to our Venn diagram. And remember that it says that in the whole circle, there'll be 13 in each, right? So if I now know that this is a 1 in the middle, I know that 4 and 3 is 7 and 1 is 8. And if this has to add to 13, then this is going to be 5 out here. In my cat circle, 4 and 1 is 5 and 2 is 7. So this is going to be 6 out here to add to 13. And in the bird circle, 5 and 1 is 6. And this will be 7 to make it add to 13. So the number of people who own only one animal would be the people out here, because these guys just own a dog or just own a cat or just own a bird. So it's going to be 5 plus 6 plus 7 is 18. Okay, so 18 own one animal and one kid owns all 3. Okay, let's look now at our second example. So it says that there are 350 farmers in a large region, and all of the farmers farm at least one of beetroot, yams, or radish. So 260 farm beetroot, 100 farm yams, 70 farm radish. Okay, so what that tells me is that the number who farm beetroot is 260. The number who farm yam is 100. The number who farm radish is 70. Then it says that 40 farm beetroot and radish. So this is the totals. Have a Venn diagram. If I start drawing a Venn diagram over here, it's going to look like, here's all my farmers. I'm going to color code it this time. So I'm going to make my beetroot circle red, my yam circle blue, my radish circle green. Okay, and it says that 40 farm beetroot and radish. So that is the whole amount right here. Like this is beetroot and radish right here. That's the whole amount. So the number who farm beetroot and radish is 40. There's 40 who farm yam and radish. I better put my letters in here. Beetroot, yam, and radish. There's 40 who farm yams and radish. So the number who farm yams and radish is 40. And the number who farm beetroot and yams is 30. And what I really want to know is what's in the middle there. So this one is actually, like, at first glance, it looks kind of complicated, but it's actually not, because we have the total value. I mean, if we tried to fill in the diagram here, it's going to get ugly, because the whole value of beetroot and radish, for example, or yam and radish or whatever, is 40. So this part, this little part right here, would be 40 subtract x, right? And the beetroot and radish is 40 as well, so this would be 40 subtract x. And then the beetroot and yam would be 30 subtract x, okay? But when we go to put this into our formula, it comes out to be actually a little bit nicer. So remember that our formula is the number that are beetroot or yam or radish is the number that you have for beetroot, the number for yam, plus the number for radish. You're going to subtract your dual overlap, so beetroot and yam, beetroot and radish and yam, and then add in that triple overlap, beetroot and radish and yam. Okay, so if you start subbing in, I have almost all these numbers. Okay, I know that I have a total of 350 farmers that all farm at least one. There's 260 beetroot, 100 yam, 70 radish. The beetroot and yam is 30. The beetroot and radish is 40. The radish and yam is 40 plus x. So it's actually pretty nice, because I can just plug all that in and I'm just solving for x. So I get 350 is equal to 320 plus x. And when I move the 320 over, I get x is equal to 30. So I know that 30 farmers farm all. Okay, this did want a completed Venn diagram, so I technically should go back and put all of my numbers into the Venn diagram. So we can kind of just work backwards. So if I know that in the middle between all of them is 30, and I know that the beetroot and radish, folks, there's 40 of them, so that means there's 10 here. The yam and radish, there's 40, so that means there's 10. The beetroot and yam, there's 30, so that means there's none here. And I have 260 people in the beetroot in the red circle, so I've already got 40 of them showing there, so that means there's 220 here. The yam, there's already 40 of them there, and there's supposed to be 100 in total, so that'll be 60 more. And then in the radish circle, there's supposed to be a total of 70, and I've got 50 there, so that means there's 20 on the outside. Okay, so this formula, even though it's ugly and long, it is kind of necessary to be able to do these questions. So I want you to go ahead and work on the practice questions now.